Okay, so before we really get into the spray bay and everything else, we need to make a decision on the canopies. Now, when you look at various F-16s, they have different types of canopies. Now, you have the smoke type, okay, and the clear glass. Now, the problem I've got with the smoke one, you might be able to see it if you catch it in the light. There it is, right along here. We've got a crack in it. Now, I'm not sure where that happened. You can't see it from above, but you can see it from the side. Now, the thing is, when I've been looking at various pictures of F-16s, it appears that the front half is smoked, okay, and the rear is clear. I haven't seen many of them where the entire thing is cleared. Now, this is basically the quick history of it. The smoked one isn't just a tint for the pilot so he doesn't get blinded by the sun. It's actually radar absorbent material that is sprayed over. So the radar cross-section of the aircraft, on the head-on especially, is a lot less because it's not bouncing anything back. That's the reason for it, hence why it's only on usually the front part of the canopy. Now, my plan was to come along and literally cut the canopy, the front away from the rear, and glue then the rear part onto this one, hence getting rid of the problem with the crack. Okay, now I've just been along downstairs and had a look and gone through various hundreds of photos on things like airliners.net and things like that of F-16s, and they don't look like the Israeli ones have the smoked front. If I'm honest, some of the photos look like the rear one's smoked and the front one's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the clear one with this particular build. So there's a thing that we've actually got with it. Now, it's going to be really hard to see on camera, but you might be able to pick out, we've got a seam line running down the front here. You might be able to catch it just down there, running down the middle of the canopy. Okay, you just about see it there. So what we need to do is get rid of that, and this really works for any type of canopy. So it's something we call canopy polishing. Now, biggest thing to do, okay, is to use some blue tack or something like that to strengthen the inside of the canopy. Now, this is quite a big one, so we've got a big lump of, you know, something like Play-Doh. If you haven't got it, this is like blue tack, but don't put it on your model, because what happens is it's got an oil, and the oil comes out and ruins your paintwork. Okay, if you can, this is called white tack, okay, or it's spelled T-E-K. And the thing with it is that it is oil free. So it's supposed to be so it doesn't mark your walls, but from our point of view, it won't mark our paintwork. So what we're going to do is put it in the midsection. Now the reason for this is many times you're coming along and you'll be working on it and you're going to squeeze it slightly and it's going to go crack. Okay, and when that goes crack, you're in a situation where you end up with this. Okay, now I didn't do this one, and to this day, I haven't got a clue how it got there. It could have been that they're all like it, but I didn't see it in the early days. For this, you're going to actually need then, for polishing out seam lines or any other imperfection, you're going to need a very fine grit file, okay? If you can, use an old one that you've used before. If not, go and take it out and attack it on a brick, okay, to take some of the edge off of this. Same with the sanding, you know, use an old one, okay, and certainly with your polishing, use an old one as well. Now, obviously, I do a polishing set in my range, but if you just buy, you know, anywhere, you just want this one. Now, this one on the back here, it looks like it's just foam. It's not actually, it's actually the polishing one. So we've got a seam line running right the way through, but what I don't want to do is then go and destroy the riveting detail on the ends. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab a little bit of Tamiya tape, knocking everything flying off the shelf up there. Okay, so we're just going to take, for the moment we're going to work on the rear one. So we're just taking some Tamiya tape and we're going to cover up where the panel goes over here, so in the middle area. If I bring you in a bit, okay, just like so. And we'll work on the rear one, as we say. So we're just going to take a bit to the rear as well. I'm just going to cover it. Now, it's not going to stop you sanding through because it's only Tamiya tape, but it will give you a guide of how far you want to go up. Okay, and then obviously we'll just put some on the front. There is a little bit down there. Okay, now what you want to do is make the minimal amount of damage possible to this, because obviously it's nice and clear. So as I said, that's why we're using older files and things like that. So what we're going to do, this is the finest file I do, flat to it, okay, right the way on, and all we're going to do is just lightly rub this down. Now, to be honest, and it's Academy's great thing, this panel line down the middle here, or seam line where it's joined, isn't too bad. But what we want to do is just sand it flat. So we've got no step up, so it's white on both sides. So now we've done this to it, okay, to try and take out that panel line. So we've done it with a minimal amount of damage. Okay, we'll just make sure it's all gone all sides. Okay, then what we're going to do, kind of come along with a sponge. So we're going to take the area which you've worn out the most, which is obviously this side. Okay, and same thing again. Just going right the way over. And all we're trying to do now, the only thing is take out the scratches. So we're going to be doing that by going back through various grits. So at the moment I'm just doing it 90 degrees across the side. Just like so. Okay, and there we go. We've got big line, but obviously now we've got rid of all those scratches on there. Okay, taking this is an old one, as I say, this is the polishing one. It's got a green side, which is very fine, and then you've got the back as well, which looks like foam, but it's very, very fine. Okay, and then all we do, exactly the same, just going across. Okay, and with each one, because we're getting less, we're going a little bit wider, so it sort of blends it in. And we're still keeping 90 degrees to it. I know a lot of people, they say about polishing that you should go 90 degrees, okay, and then 90 degrees to itself, 90 degrees to itself, and everything else. And you get people say, oh, you only polish one way. I don't know, never worked. I just sort of go along like this. Okay, so then we go right the way over. Okay, now if you see my old videos, I say about squeaking, which I still stand by, because when it's squeaking, it means it's really polished. Okay, so now we're to this effect. So we've gone from getting quite sharp to not a lot. Okay, give that a wipe. So then what we're going to do is have a look, and we're looking for any scratches that are more than what this green one has made. Trust me, if you see them, they'll be big and white, because the actual dust from your polishing will go in those cracks. Flip it over onto the white side. Okay, and then we're just going to polish all the way over. And then we're just going to keep going. Okay, so literally, and you'll notice in a moment, he says, hoping like hell, it'll start squeaking. When it's squeaking, it's polished, totally flat, hence it's squeaking. If it wasn't squeaking, it would, if it isn't squeaking, it means you haven't done it enough. But you can, we are nicely squeaking now, and that's what I mean. Now don't get this too hot, don't go at it really, really hard, otherwise what's going to happen is, all it's going to do is literally you're going to heat it up, or you're going to crack it or something else like that. It's a long thing. I know a lot of people sit down in front of the telly and do this, but there you go, without using any polishes or compounds, it's gone completely. And we haven't had to dip it either. Now you could do the entire canopy with this particular white side and go round the entire thing and just polish up all round it. That is a good one to do. If you get in a situation where sometimes you've got little tiny things on it, dipping isn't always the best answer. Sometimes it's best to polish it. Now what you could do, obviously at this point, there's things like Tamiya compounds for polishing or normal car polish. You can actually go round on a cloth, okay, and literally just polish the entire thing up to give it that nice shine. So we'll just give this a rub around. This is just a normal cloth with nothing on it. But there you go. No scratches, no marks, totally crystal clear, and it hasn't taken that long either. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to do the same for the front canopy again. So we're just going to remove this bit of masking tape and line it up with the rear one. Okay. And all I'm going to do is exactly the same for the front side. So there we go, same thing again, white line running through. As I said, we're just going to repeat it exactly the same way. So as I said, really the sanding stick is doing all the work. That is what's taking out the actual scratches, the actual seam line itself, sorry, everything that we do after that is solely designed to get rid of any scratches that has made. So really just take your time with it. And remember, don't push down heavy. As soon as you push down heavy, you can either make a lot more work, because obviously the spread will be a lot more. Okay, and secondly, if you crack it, you're in a lot of work. So it's quite a fragile thing, this. You know, if this was a normal sort of thinner F-16 one, chances are I'd have put this stuff, you know, the actual putty stuff, underneath the entire thing to sort of bulge it out a little bit. So okay, we'll just run it down the front. Bit of a wipe off. Now I can see a couple of little scratches left in this front one. I don't know how well you'll be able to see them. Might be able to see we've got one just here, right in front of my finger. The light catches it. Very hard to see on camera like this. Okay, so what we'll do is keep going until we get rid of it. This is another thing. If you've got super glue marks, you can polish them out again. And I've even done it. I actually had a bit of a mistake once, and I put normal liquid cement onto a Canopy and it whited it out, and by polishing it up I managed to get down to some hard plastic still, because it was only on the surface of it, and took care of it like that. So we're just very lightly, not pushing down at all, just doing little circular movements, because this one's got a few more scratches in it. Okay, just like so. So we can see it all fogged up. Moving along, green side. Okay, and it's amazing how well this green one, in conjunction with the white side, work at polishing out broken bits. They really, really do the job well. But as I say, the old squeak thing, I know a lot of people have laughed about me when I've said about it, but it really does work well. If it squeaks, you're okay. If it's not squeaking, keep going. And obviously, depending on how deep the seam line is, we know this one's a very light one. Other kits I've worked with have had horrendous, deep, very thick seams that need to come out. So working down here. Okay. Wipe off, and we're looking for scratches, so that's where we are now. We've got just a bit of fogging, but we're getting clearer. Flip over to our white side. As I say, this white side, I know a lot of people used to say it's just foam. Trust me guys, it's not foam. This has got an extremely fine polishing compound on it, and does work an absolute treat. And for you guys who have got plexiglass and things like that, it will polish that up as well. As I say, it's not a sprint, this type of job. This is one of those ones you just take your time with. And it's squeaking like a good one. There we go, give it a polish, bit of dust on the inside, and there we go, clear Canopy. Simple. It's a really nice, simple, very straightforward job. Just be careful how you remove the putty when you've finished. Don't go yanking it out, because you don't want to crack it at this late stage. Now the chances are there's a little bit of putty residue left inside there. That's what that is. Okay, so you can just use a cloth and polish those out. Polish up the inside. As I say, if you wanted to use a polishing compound, by all means help yourself, but for us it's job done. Right, so next what we need to do is really mask up the actual cockpit. area. So as I say, we've polished it all up, got rid of the seam line, everything else. Now there's a few ways to do this. First of all, there's the mask oil technique. Basically what you actually do is paint on a clear latex film and then cut round, get them out. The only trouble with that is as you're cutting, sometimes you get it gets a little bit rucked up. If you peel it, if it goes wrong, you have to put it on and you have to wait for it to dry and so forth and so on. Your other option is you can buy ready-made masks. Now these are die-cut ones on big sheets, square sheets of basically masking tape. You peel them off and put them in, and then usually it's only around the outsides of it, and if you've got a big area in the middle, what you do, you pop along them with your Tamiya tape or something similar, or a masking film or something, and fill in the gaps. Or you can do it all in one. Now if you're doing a little cockpit, sometimes it's easier to use a wider tape, place it over the entire thing, and then cut it. Okay, now we've got this in other videos to look at. Bigger ones, what you can do is use something like a 6mm Tamiya tape. Okay, then you pull yourself a length off like so. Okay, starting at the back, alright, find yourself a flat square line. Now make sure you're following the right line. Sounds silly, but the thing is, obviously sometimes you get little gaps and steps and things like that. So we'll just line that up to where the other one is, push back. Now if it's looking slightly wrong like that one, you can lift up and stretch it in the right direction. Okay, and then you just push down like that. Now if it carries on like this one does, so obviously you've got the bars running through the middle, we're not going to worry too much about that. We're just literally going to pretend it's not there for the moment and just carry this right round. So you put it down, and because we've got a curve coming up here, what we're going to do is start to stretch it. So you get little kinks appearing on the inside here, and literally we've got a big curve around the front. Okay, so we just round that curve there, and then obviously got the flat bit so it's stepped. So then what we can do is push this down, and you might be able to see we've got a little step just down here. So then what you can do, you can come along with your knife, lay it in, okay, and on a very shallow angle drag it across and follow the instep, and that way you can then cut off. Okay, and the same is as you go along to this one. If you hold it in the correct light, you'll see where the line is. Place your blade in, as I say, shallow angle, that will hopefully stop it dragging, and that way you can push up just like those, and then pull away just like that one. Okay, so we're just going to do the same for the other side as well, but whilst you've got a nice piece of offcut like this, what we can do, we can place it down to the corner at the rear, just down like here. Same thing again, we're going to drag it across the top, and then make sure you get the kinks on the inside of the tape by placing your finger and literally bending it, pushing down, pull back every now and again, push down, pull back, right the way over. Now get yourself a nice sharp pair of scissors for this one. These are decoupage scissors or decoupage scissors, especially designed for cutting paper. Okay, so they're great for cutting tapes, very thin tapes. So what you can do, you can slip it underneath, just like that there, and then push that down, and then come in to the reverse angle again, same as we did before, placing it up and in, shallow angle, and just dragging it, following the panel line until you're at the same part of the tape is, and there we go, that one's done just the same. Okay, so we'll do the same for the going over, and then we'll get together again in a minute for the filling in. Okay, so that's that one all done. Now just remember to make sure you push down your corners and right the way around the edges, because obviously when we come to paint this, you don't want any bleed through to get through. So just take your time, making sure you're all pushed in nice and tight. And also the thing is, where you join tapes up, make sure they're square. So at this point, you can actually push it forward and back. Got a little tiny step on this one, so you can actually smooth or push the Tamiya tape forward. But remember, you're on plastic, we don't want this to crack, so just be careful with it. Now what you can do, just for filling in, you can either use a mask oil just around it in there, or you can use a very thick piece of something or other. So, which is what I tend to do. So literally we'll just pop a large piece on the top, just run it in, push down gently. Okay, get your rough widths. You can do it like that, and this is great if you've got all your leftover Tamiya tape bits on the edge of your desk. You can just use them up as well. Basically, we're just going to pop them all around everywhere. Seems daft, but there we go. But just make sure, again, these are just as well, because you don't want to be in a position where you come along and you're like, right, okay, I've missed a bit, and then you have to clean it, and then it obviously gets on your paintwork afterwards. So what you can actually do now, you could actually repeat this to the inside, okay? The only trouble with the inside is you haven't got the panel lines to follow and all the different things like that. So obviously what you need to do, he says, just spotting a little bit of over tape, so we just cut that off whilst we say it. That's the important things, because otherwise it would have hung over, unmasked bit, you touch it in, and when you try and touch things in, especially on canopies, they never look like the full thing as you did it before. Anyway, so we're saying, if you wanted to paint the inside, obviously you can just repeat the steps, but it isn't quite as easy because you haven't got, as say, the panel lines to guide your blade of your knife as you're following it around. But the way to get around that, as the way that I do it, is actually to paint it black first, or the base colour, the inside colour. That way, it doesn't matter what colour you are afterwards, it will show through as that being the inside colour. And okay, you've got a bit of shininess, but especially if you're going to be cockpit down, you're never going to know anyway. So there we go, that's the basics about masking. Okay, so now what we need to do is really button this one up to get it all closed up, so then literally we can get this straight over into the spray bay and get painting with it. A couple of things we've done, we've installed the flaps, and obviously we've got them in the flap down position. Because this is flying, I've got them slightly higher than just totally down, because don't forget these are what we call flaperons, which means they also are the ailerons as well. So not all of them, sometimes especially if the control inputs are being put in, you get one higher than lower than the other. So don't be mistaken that they're just basically flaps. So okay, what we'll do now is just gently install the clear cockpit. Now this is the proper one in here, so we need to make sure this is a good fit, and technically it's not. It needs a little bit of sanding off the front just to help this close, so just be very careful how you do this. So we're just going to take our time with it, sanding off just a little bit on the front here of the nose. This isn't a rush, because if you rush this one and it goes wrong, we've got all types of problems. Okay, I think maybe just a little bit off the front. Again, we're just going to test it, see how it fits in. That's pretty almost there, a little bit more. Because we don't want any big gaps with this, but at the same time we want it to be nice and flush when it's down. Thinking maybe just a fraction more, but it's pretty much almost there. But there is a small little step on the very front. So what we'll do is, we won't worry about that for the minute. What we'll do, we'll close this down. So obviously, because we've got very fragile parts in here, we're just going to put a blob of tape on top here. And what we'll do is just pinch it up higher, so when this comes along and sits on it, it will push down and then hold. Okay, same we'll do on the rear ejector seat. So that's looking for his thing. So we're just going to put a little bit, again, just a tiny bit here. And again, pinching it. Now obviously the seat isn't bolted in at the rear, but what we'll do, it'll just stop us getting overspray in there. Okay. Checking how it's all lining up and going in. Okay, checking the width of the cockpit, that's all okay, and in there, absolutely fine. So that's that one stuck in place, and we're not going to get much overspray onto the inside. If we do get a little bit, it's not going to be a problem, because it will give us that nice faded line between the two. Again, I don't like to put hard edge paintwork, because obviously they get scuffed, and in reality it's how they are sprayed. I know a lot of people would mask this separate and then put it on, but I want a nice blended line as if it would get it in real life into those areas. So okay, we've done exactly the same for the inside one in here. All we've done is another little blob of the actual tack to hold the door in place. Now this door might not be the one we actually use. We do have a resin better one than this, but unfortunately when you do marry it up, it's the wrong shape for the wheel well. Door's going to be open on this, you're never going to tell the difference, but I probably will stick with the original fit one. At the same time, we've got over here, camera has a hard time with the white, but what I've done is I sprayed the inside of the main doors, and this is that centre area. Again, they just placed on a bit of tack and then in the middle. Now, because we've got plastic and resin just down here, what we're going to do is just put a tiny bit of super glue along the length of this inside step. Okay. Just in like so, and then we'll just pop, just move that out of the way, this one in. We'll just poke him in one end to start with, making sure he's square, and then second end is in as well. And we're just going to push that down and hold, but what it does, if you can just about see it, it just show white from the inside. Make sure that's all down in position. Just to speed things up, we're just going to give it a spray with a tiny bit of kicker just in there. But this locks this in place, and again, I think we spoke about it before, I'm using the kit part because the resin one doesn't fit. It's about 2mm too short, about 1mm each end if you line it up. So again, there is some discrepancies with the wheel well. I don't know if this is Aries or somebody else, but certainly it does make it a little bit odd. So we can let go of that now. So as you might have noticed with this electrics, what we've actually done is I've cut off the plug so this will fit inside so we can close it up. Now, I'm hoping these are dry because I haven't done them that long ago. And I'll talk you through about spraying white paint and everything a little bit later on when we do the undercarriage. But those doors are done now. So what we'll do is, same as we did before, a bit of tack. Bring you around a little bit. So we just got a bit of a tack, wrapping it around now, having a look down here because we don't want to pull any detail particularly off of this. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just find some areas to go on. So we're going to put one in here for the front and one to the rear. Same thing again, just stepping them up a little bit, and then the door comes along and hopefully goes on. Now, if it doesn't fit, as in it's a little bit off or a little step in it, something like that, I wouldn't worry about it. Don't worry about it too much, because what will happen is it will just, as long as you can't get any overspray physically in there, then you'll be fine. Now, I know a lot of people will be shouting at the screen now saying about, well, isn't it easier to mask it up and then spray it afterwards? As I said, I like to build as they are in real life. So in real life, it will be buttoned up and it will be sprayed. I know a lot of people do the thing of doing all these bits afterwards and it comes together at the end. I've never really built like that. It's just personal choice. If you want to, go for your life, you know, help yourself to it. Personally, for me, I like doing it this way. So there we go. There's the bottom all buttoned up. And basically we're all ready for painting now. So I'm not going to put the tail planes on because those, the camo pattern, we'll have to do separate. We've put really these on because of the camo that's going to go in, everything else. Basically the only other thing we've done is we've actually secured the lights now actually in position, okay? And the top one, they're just done a little bit of super glue, kicker, and they are now in place. The only thing I haven't done yet is do the glass for going around the tops of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of mask oil, which is that liquid film. You've probably seen the old Humbrol one, but they do lots of them. Basically it's a latex film just over the lenses just to protect those, but the rest of it will all be painted and take care of it like that. So that is it. So what we're going to do now, get this prepped up to be a spray bay. My spray bay is literally just over there, but the thing is I can't get the camera as well, so with the extractor on it should all go that way very nicely. So I'm going to clear all this away. I'm going to give this a wipe over with some very, very mild thinners on a cloth, acting basically like plastic prep, to clean it all off. Then we can get it in the spray bay and we can get some primer on it.